Welcome to another tech stuff whenever. And this episode, I'm going to take one of these Powerbass 3 XL motors that originally went to a 15 dual 2 and turned into one of these, a 12 D2 with a different basket and a different, well, it's a different everything. So I'm going to show you the full build process going from this to this. First things first, we're going to put the basket on the motor. I know what you're thinking. Goes on there like that, throw some bolts in it, you're good. Except for one problem. That's not the case because this bolt pattern doesn't match this bolt pattern. So we have to solve that. And the way that I'm going to solve that is actually with this bolt pattern. This is a Memphis M6 basket that happens to use the correct bolt pattern as this motor. So I'm going to use it as a jig on the other basket so I can drill all new holes so it'll bolt up to here. Now essentially what I've done is set this basket down. It's the one that's getting drilled into. We've got the holes that go in this one that's going on top. I've centered both of the hubs in the middle here to where those are lined up, and I've put clamps on it to where it's just going to hold them in the same spot. I know that this pattern is going to come out exactly correct. We're going to take a 1/4 inch drill bit, put it on the drill out the pattern, and then we can actually mount it to it. Now you may have noticed that I didn't put thread locker on any of these bolts because it's not necessary. I've literally built hundreds and hundreds of subs, never used thread locker, and never had them come out. And that's because I use plenty of torque. If you torque them really well, you don't have to do that. You might also notice that I use lock washers. Some will say, lock washers aren't effective. I'm not using lock washers how they're intended. Lock washers, normally you'd put a little bit of pressure on it. It will hold tension on it. They don't hold a ton of torque, but it'll make it so it doesn't vibrate out. I'm actually going all the way down with it. I'm not using it for the hold it in place purposes. I'm using it for the bring more of a contact patch, like a normal washer. I'm using it as a small washer. That's for all the experts from the other videos. Which, by the way, check out the other build videos. There's going to be a playlist somewhere up there. Click on that. See more of the other sub builds. Also, don't forget to give this a thumbs up if you like this kind of content, and make sure you're subscribed as well. So now we've got this in place, we've got to throw our terminals on the basket. I'm going to go ahead, prep it for that. Something you may not have known But with the speaker in this position, the positive is always going to be left, and the negative is always going to be on the right. Now, there's two things that I know about putting this spider on this basket. If it's a TI style basket, like this one, you're gonna have to cut little notches here in the surround to make it fit around the terminals. Not a big deal. The other thing is the particular coil that I've got fits super snug, and I don't want it to be quite that tight. So I'm gonna bore this out just a little bit, being careful not to nick the leads on any of these, doing it from the back side here. I'm gonna use this, a rasp on a drill. This is our coil. Should slide right in here. This joint isn't completely necessary to its function. It's a quality thing that I do. Not every manufacturer does it. Actually, quite a few don't do it. Majority don't. See, that slides right on there nice and easy, so we can adjust it nice and smooth and it's not grabbing. So we've got to mark up the coil so we can find the center point of the coil, then the top plate thickness, and subtract half of that, because the center of this coil needs to be in the center of this top plate. I know this is a 19mm top plate, so I'm going to find half, which should be probably around 31mm, I think, on this particular coil, and then take half of that, make a mark, and when we go to set it, that's going to be at the top of the top plate. So we've got the coil marked. That's our guy right there. That's going to be our visual reference point when putting it down here in the motor. But we've got to shim it. And this is our shim. It's a bunch of paper. The correct shim thickness is going to be where it will slide in here snug. And the coil won't move around. Now, we still gotta put the little notches down here in the spider, so I've kind of bent it around to where I can see where it'll fit at the corners here. I'm gonna mark it, give it a little snip, but also make sure that where you're doing it is in the right spot, where the leads are. So we'll spin it around, get it marked, cut some notches. So a few side cutters, made my little notches. We've still got contact area. Obviously you don't want to go all the way into here because then it can't make contact area. So we still got some, it'll still get glued. It's gonna be fine. So we can put the spider back on here. Now the spider fits flat. We're gonna make sure everything is spun around so we're doing the right things. And now we find our mark. We lower the coil, pushing straight down, letting the shim do the work, keep it straight. And then we will glue this top spot in place. Now, with that in the right spot, we're going to put a real light glue joint right along this edge. to make sure that coil won't move. Now it's very important that you push on the coil straight down, because remember, we want to keep the spider in the correct position, and we don't want it to be wobbly or anything like that. So we don't want to move the spider to fit the coil. We want to have the basket pushing on the spider, push the coil down so it does all the work, letting the shim keep it centered. Now while we get the cone prepped to go on here, we're going to tape the leads in place. And that's not something that you absolutely positively have to do, but it is something that does help when you go to put the cone on, because you're not trying to fight lining this up or that up. Make sure that everything stays above the cone where it's supposed to. And here is our cone. Now I also know that this cone, as it's cut, is not going to slide perfectly over that former, so I'm going to have to bore it out just a little bit. And for that, I'm going to use a screwdriver and just spin it around the inside. And that should give us a little flat edge, kind of move this out a little bit, so it should slide right on. Now this one does not have any notches for any mounting holes. Some do. Make sure you line that up. We've got our leads lined up with our terminals, so that's the first thing to line up. Second thing is going to be for screw holes, if you have them. Alright, so that slid right on. Next thing is going to be getting our leads soldered in place. And for that, we're going to take our tape off. We're going to wrap the leads from the spider onto the leads of the coil and get it soldered up. Now this is what I've done here. Wrap one lead around the other. Now you want to make sure when you're pulling this, you don't pull the leads from the bottom too far. They do need to be relatively flat to the spider. So I'm going to check that before I actually put any glue in here. But I'm going to go ahead and solder these on. Okay, we've got our joints soldered. Made sure the leads are firmly against the spider. Again, if you have them too tight, they go on an angle. When the sub moves, it can actually rip them, so you don't want to do that. There is a slight gap where the leads pop up through. So glue can seep through, depending how viscous it is. If it's pretty thin, it can go right through there. And you may have noticed that we've got a pretty substantial gap that's happening between the spider and the cone. And I try not to do that. On these baskets, it's not a bad idea because the pivot point, instead of being completely here, bringing this up, the coil won't rock nearly as much. But that is kind of a good thing in this case. That's keeping 2 points of contact separated. So it'll perform a little bit better that way. But that also means that I can't do like some manufacturers do, and there are manufacturers that do this, where they glue the top, they don't glue the bottom, and you just see everything going on there, and I think it's awful, and it's not as secure of a joint. The cone can break loose, or maybe they just put a bead right below the cone. I don't like to do that either. I like to glue the whole thing, which we'll see how I do that here in a little bit, but for now, to make sure that we don't get any seepage from any gap where it might come through there, I'm going to put a small bead down, follow it with the accelerator quickly, and that's going to seal it so we can go back and do a larger bead. Now, you will have to wait a little bit because this accelerator obviously accelerates the drying of the glue. And since we just sprayed it on there, if you spray it directly on top right after you sprayed it, you may not get good adhesion because it's drying immediately. You don't get a good where it'll spread out, make more contact area. So we're going to wait a couple minutes for that to evaporate before we go back and do a large bead over the whole thing and the leads. All right, now with that glued in place, we're gonna hit it from the backside. I do like to throw my paper down here in the event that for some reason there's a hole, pinhole anywhere where glue might drip back through. We don't want to drip into the gap or anything like that. So I just put there as a safety precaution, flip it over. Because we do have a Lazy Susan, we can spin it. All right, so we've got the very bottom, we've got the very top, now we've got the middle. So we've got to address this. And there's a little bit of a method, I'm not sure if I'll be able to capture on camera so well. But I hold it a certain way, I put the glue in at the top, I let it fall down, I use a pick tool to spread it out, get a nice even spread all the way on there. The bottom is secured, the leads are secured, everything in here is covered. Gives it about as nice of a look as you can under the conditions. And there we've got it. About as clean as you can get. We're having glue on there. Everything is secured. And this is essentially a drop-in, as it were, at this point. So now we can do the assembly into everything else. All right, moving along. If you haven't hit the old thumbs up button, probably go ahead and do that. I'm going to make sure that this basket is sanded. Now this has got a textured finish on it, so realistically it probably doesn't need it. It'll probably be just fine. If it's smooth painted, you definitely want to scuff the surface. You can use sandpaper, unless you ran out of sandpaper and then you forgot to get more sandpaper, and that's when you use a sandpaper disc. So I'm just going to spin this around by hand on the spider landing and the surround landing. Now remember, we are sanding. We are not grinding. We are scuffing. We're not taking massive amounts of material off. So everybody who's saying, oh, you're getting dust in the gap, you gotta clean it up. There's no dust coming off of this. We're not in a clean room. It's fine. So we are going to clean the dust off of that, which you can do with alcohol and a microfiber if it's one of the not really fluffy ones. But when it is a real fluffy one like this, you can just go around it. It takes it right off. And it's not a bad idea to do this when you do the terminals earlier so they're not in the way, but that's just not the order that I did it. So now we can get this thing together. Again, we got to go back with our shim, which again, there's not a set number that you have to do. It's based on the motor and the coil that you're using. So just find the appropriate thickness to where the coil just kind of sit right in there, not being able to wiggle around, kind of sit there on its own. Again, remember, leads have to line up. So when you go to put this in, do it right the first time. I'm going to go ahead and put glue on the spider landing. I'm not going to do the surround just yet. You can, but I'm not going to, and I'll show you why. Alright, that is in place, and something that you can do, which I am going to do just out of extra measure, you can put clamps on the spider. If you're not completely confident that you've got it on there nice and tight, throw some clamps at it. It'll hold it down. So now I know the spider is definitely in place where it needs to be. We got the clamps in place, but we don't need to leave them there because we've got a little bit of glue popping out on the edge. You can hit it with the accelerator. It's going to hold this outside edge in place. We'll give that a few seconds, pull the clamps off. We're going to leave this shim in the entire time. Now this surround is big enough that we can just flip it up and it'll stay there. Not all of them are like that. But the reason that I'm doing that is because our leads are crammed right in here. So I'm actually going to use this as an access point for visibility. I'm still going to be bringing solder and the soldering iron this way. When I go to trim the ends of it, I can trim it straight down here because I didn't glue this in yet. And I'll go ahead and answer some of your questions that are going to be in the comments. Yes, I can recone your fill-in-the-blank sub. You will have to send it to me. No, I cannot just build a drop-in and send it to you. You have to send the motor and basket to me. You will have to pay the shipping charges both directions. Factor in the cost of that. No, I will not recone your any size JLW7. And if you want me to recone your Type R, you have to change the basket. I'm not doing another one where I'm not changing the basket. So factor that into the price and think, is it really going to be worth it for shipping both ways plus basket? Just saying. Alright, now we've got all that soldered, that's all in place. We can secure the surround to the basket. This really helps when you have a Lazy Susan. If you know why Susan was so lazy, comment below. I'm curious. So we've got a bead of glue all the way around. We're going to throw that guy down there. Bam, it's right there, but we want to put some clamps on it. And here's where you comment about the use of all these clamps. Now we're going to leave all of these bazillion clamps on here for about an hour, hour and a half. That is going to be dry, but since we're secure on the bottom because we're glued in, we're secure on top because we've got the glue drying and a bazillion clamps, it means we can pull our shim out. And that means we can put the dust cap on. Same story with the dust cap. I'm gonna sand the back side of this to give us a nice bonding surface because we want it scuffed like that, not real smooth like that. Now we do have a logo, you may or may not. You want to make sure you get your logo straight when you put it on, so you can use reference points. So for right now, I'm going to temporarily remove 2 of these clamps so I know exactly where that would line up with the terminals. I'm going to take it loose. So I've got 2 points of reference to line that up off of. Now if you had a ridge in your cone, you can put the glue on the ridge, then put the dust cap on it. That can be a little bit easier. We don't have that royalty. So I'm going to put glue directly on the edge, right around there, and then spin it around so the dust cap's in the right spot for my alignment, slap it on there. Now I've done this hundreds of times, so I can eyeball it and pretty much get it exactly where I want it, exactly centered. But it's a good idea to have a pretty good idea, or maybe leave a pencil outline or a tape outline on the cone if you're not very good at that. Drop it on and then measure it. I'm not going to smear glue all over the dust cap, so you'll have a little bit of playroom. You can move it around, get it centered up, and then put your weight on it. And there you go. We're centered up. We've got our weight distributed on it. This is a little bit heavy for this one. You notice the cone actually went down just a little bit. It's a little bit much weight for this one. It is pretty heavy. It's about 5 pounds. You do want enough to just kind of put force down on the dust cap. If the suspension starts to move a little bit, you're kind of at your limit where you should be. You just want to keep a constant pressure on that dust cap. So we're going to let this whole thing sit. In an hour and a half, it will be good enough to take all the clamps off, take this off, and then you really should just leave it overnight before you play it. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. And here it is in all of its glory with the gasket installed. So we're going to play this a little bit on the test bench, make sure we don't have any funny noises, nothing goes weird, and it's going to be shipped back to the customer. If you're wondering what the change in pitch is, moving that from flat to moved up, it's blocking the pole vent. There's a little bit of a hole in this foam so it can breathe just a little bit, but it's still getting blocked, so you got pressure coming back up through other things, and that's what all that velocity is. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Check out all of the other videos that I've done for the subwoofer builds. Make sure you shop at EMF Car Audio for all of your subwoofer, amplifier, power storage, batteries, be it lithium, supercaps, AGMs. Check out everything we've got there, and I'll see you again in the next one.